this is legit. We announce it immediately on the space, and then yeah, it just blows up. The space blows up because everybody's excited. The last time I checked, that tweet had, I think, about 180 million views, had 1.2 million likes. Like, Trump is the whole show. Like, I know we had DeSantis fans on here the other day, and we're like, oh, the numbers, you can't really take them as a grain of salt or whatever. Like, I was checking DeSantis, he gets like I get more likes than DeSantis, and I'm controversial. So like, that was huge. But Brick, I know you. Let me go Preston actually first. Preston, I know you're a massive Trump fan. You went to Georgia. You were you were smashing. I saw a video. You were smashing the haters. What does it mean to see Trump on Twitter, and what do you think is going to go down? Is he going to join Spaces? Is he coming to our space? What's going down, bro?
Who knows? Yeah, we've worked with the campaign a lot in terms of social media approach and whatnot. Yesterday, I think you saw very well that we broke the internet because the first time a president's ever been given a mugshot before, it's just totally ridiculous. Everyone out there in the crowds was a MAGA fan. You had the media, NBC, ABC, they were all covering the one or two people there that were anti-Trump, but the overwhelming majority of people were out there in 104-degree heat all day long with big, huge MAGA flags there to support the president. So from this point on, Trump got a ton of likes, ton of reshares. Trump was all over my Twitter feed today, and I think that just shows you he's coming back and he's out for blood this time because they're trying to, you know, muzzle him as much as they can. They want to put him behind bars, and the American people aren't going to have it, and we're going to see that in 2024.
Let me go to Sarah. Sarah, I know you're a massive Trump supporter. You're a massive, but even more than Trump, you love X even more. And so seeing Trump on X, how does it make you feel? Because you're about the feelings. And number two, more importantly, what do you think is going to go down? Is he going to stop posting on Truth Social? Is he coming to X? Is he going to be posting simultaneously? What do you think?
Well, nobody's a bigger Trump supporter than I am, as you all know. I think it's a brilliant move to come back to.
I knew it.
To come back to X. I think the timing of his first post, I thought that it was actually a brilliant move. Look how fast it blew up. I think the running joke is that he now qualifies for ad rev share, and so that should cover all of his legal bills, right?
No, he won't.
I think it's a brilliant move.
I'm not sure about that because he's not. If he's DeSantis, then maybe so. But anyway, continue, Sarah.
I think it's a brilliant move. I don't think that Trump should have been removed from Twitter 1.0 to begin with. He's obviously a public figure, and everything that he has to say, whether I like it or not, is very relevant.
True. Doc, I'm extremely disappointed in you. I'm shocked. Like, I'm seeing everybody, including my boy Ryan, using the Trump profile, and you're not used it, bro. Like, I'm seeing these profiles everywhere. People are supporting. It's almost becoming historic, this profile. What's your thoughts about? Anyway, that was a joke, but what do you think about Trump's return to X?
Very happy about his return to X. The way he did it, couldn't have been more dramatic and effective. I just posted above the space that I've never seen conservative Twitter more positive, more filled with energy. I've never seen as many people or videos, people walking away, particularly in the Black community. It's a good day, not just for Trump fans like Sarah, and not just for people like DeSantis fans like Chris, who's in his best interest is not going to get what he wants, which is a DeSantis nomination and presidency. It's good news for everybody, including all of my friends in other countries like yourself and my pal Khaleesi. Trump isn't perfect, okay? And the people that have criticisms of Trump for various reasons, and we know some of them personally, they're reasonable in their condemnation of Trump and his personal sort of foibles. But from a policy standpoint, from what this country needs, Trump is viewed, I think, rightly as a savior right now. And I hope to God that the fear that many have had, and that Tucker announced in that interview, are you fearful of being assassinated? As I watched that procession yesterday in Atlanta, all I thought about was a shot ringing out. And so let's just all pull for America. Thanks.
Ryan, I know I saw your tweets. You were extremely ecstatic to see A, Trump, B, see that the attempted game that was being played in order to malign Trump in terms of getting him to have a mugshot and so on and so forth didn't really work. And if anything, he used it. Excellent PR. And it's like people like yourself and everybody is now using it as their profile picture. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I lost a little stupid blue check mark because of that. So,
oh my God! I think that's because Musk hits Trump. That's why. Anyway, continue.
Maybe. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it was an iconic moment for sure. We've never seen this in the history of this country where a former president has to go through this process. I'm glad that he didn't smile because I think it made the photo even more badass. You can look at him and you can see the righteous indignation, sort of just coming off of that photo. And to me, this is a moment where, it's payback. It's a moment of retribution, and you can kind of see that in that entire photo is what I pull from it. I mean, I want the thing framed and hung in my office, to be quite frank. There's shirts everywhere. I mean, this is going to be the most iconic photo in American history, similar to Frank Sinatra's mugshot or even MLK's. This is going to be in the history books. And so I think that it was I will call it the biggest political miscalculation in the history of this country for them to do that. They didn't do it. I don't think that they did it in New York City. If they did, it's not public. Same thing down in Florida, DC. And I think that Fani Willis probably made the worst decision of her lifetime by doing it, but it benefits us, of course, at the end of the day.
Let me go to Chris. Chris, I know you're a massive Trump fan as well. We saw the figures. I posted above, and at that point it was 122 million. Now it's almost 200 million views. Musk posted and he said this is getting almost 10 million views an hour. Like, Trump is the whole show. What do you think?
Oh, no. Well, this is great. Thanks for having me on, Suleiman. Again, that was a great night the other night. What's up, Nick? Great coverage down there in Hawaii. Now, I'm just listening right now to Ron DeSantis promising he will never lock this country down again. And here we are. He will never allow it to be locked down again like Trump did. And, here we are. We're looking at this mugshot and great.
Like you did in
I would
Florida?
come back to Twitter to fundraise if I were him too. But on the other end, you've got Ron DeSantis in the field of dreams, showing that we have another way that we can go in. Today, you have Trump's Surgeon General touting lockdowns and mask mandates again. We have schools closing the day after Ron DeSantis's Surgeon General Joe Ladapo says, do not comply with mask mandates. Look, I know this little mugshot thing is so cute and everything, and you guys love the polls, but we cannot go through another lockdown in this country. Donald Trump gave Tony Fauci and the entire COVID task force a presidential commendation on his way out the door. He's shown no indication that he would do anything differently. Our economy cannot handle this right now. This is what people.
Chris, stop it. You're making me laugh. I can't breathe. Stop it.
Chris, got a question for you, bro. Is DeSantis going to promise not to inject a 100-year-old on TV then as well?
Well, I don't know what you just said, but
I said
something about.
I'll explain it. I said, will DeSantis promise to not inject a 100-year-old person on national TV this time? If there
you guys just bring what the Operation Warp Speed shots never should have gone out, period. But who has fought back against these? DeSantis has, when it came out, the destruction they were doing. That vaccine that Trump pushed through killed people. Trump is still telling people to take it. He's still saying, take the vaccine. And by the way, Biden will come out.
Don't do that.
I don't think it's all that funny, but he was asked at a recent campaign event, and he stands by the vaccine, claiming it saved billions of lives. Ron DeSantis has created a grand jury to look into this stuff, these manufacturers, and just take it to them. We need the president that's not going to lock us down again. Everybody can go back and forth about, oh, the Trump's a martyr. He's like Martin Luther King. That's the funniest comparison I've ever heard. And oh, poor Trump and all this stuff. But the bottom line is, we can't go through this again, man. We can't go through mass mandates again.
Chris,
our economy cannot handle that.
One other question before I go to just to get the other side. So you make like a valid point in the sense of that is an important issue for a lot of us. Like, I get whatever happened in the past. People can say Trump should have done better. People can say DeSantis should have done better. Like, there's no doubt about that. That's in the past. In the future, if Trump is saying that he's in lockdown, that is something to be concerned about for sure. Like, I'm trying to be balanced. But another thing that people care about a lot, Chris, is foreign policy, Ukraine-Russia war. And Trump seems like the guy who is going to ensure that there's going to be peace in that region. And so, yeah, I agree in terms of vaccine is very important. You know, what's more important? Not dying due to World War III or there being nuclear warfare, which I think is very low chance of happening, but it is something that the world is concerned about. So is Trump your guy for that?
Absolutely not. Trump said if he can't get it figured out in 24 hours right away, he's going to arm up Ukraine even more. Now, I do have a question for you, Suleiman. Do you think the United States should continue sending our weapons and money to Ukraine?
100% not. That's why I don't want DeSantis, because I believe that that is his plan. Because when he initially tried to give an indication that he was going to maybe make a good move in terms of Ukraine and Russia to stop it, it seems like those who are in power, those who control him, the super PACs got to him. And then within a week, he changed his view. And so for someone who seems like he's controlled by super PACs, controlled by money, that's my largest concern, because that actually affects me directly. Ukraine and Russian war, that war continuing, as someone from the United Kingdom, affects me significantly. We are struggling in the United Kingdom as poor people are in the United States, but poor people in the UK are struggling for the same reason, and that's what I care about more, because I didn't come from like riches. I'm doing well, but I know what it means to come from the ends, and so I care about them people a lot. And so for that reason, things like the Ukraine-Russia war does mean a lot to me, Chris, and that's why if out of the United States president, I want Trump to win for that specific reason. So that's why it directly affects me. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, well, I look at it this way as well, because, I want to see.
And I agree with you, Chris. Sorry, one more point. I'm just going to agree with. And another thing that directly affects us in the United Kingdom is lockdown. So you're right. Because let's be clear, if the United States hadn't locked down, like, the world wouldn't have kowtowed and do the same thing. And that's why United States matters so much. Like, when you always ask, like, you're from Britain, why do you care? These are examples of major issues that affect our lives in the United Kingdom are actually decided by your guys' policy decisions. So whoever's the president of the United States, and if he decides to lock down again, I can guarantee you that someone from the United Kingdom will follow suit and do the same thing. But if your president said, no, we are not going to lock down the next time it happens, the United Kingdom will follow suit. If your president decides to go to the Ukraine and Russia, United Kingdom will follow suit. And if your president says that we're going to, remove and walk away from the Ukraine-Russia war, United Kingdom will follow suit. And so those things are the reasons why the United States politics matters so much to the world, and matters to me, because these things are big in our lives. And just like I know you're very passionate about COVID and lockdown, and rightly so, you can see why your politics affects the rest of us. Anyway, go ahead, Chris.
Well, Suleiman, I'll tell you, it sounds like we have a lot in common there. And, with Ron DeSantis, you are not going to get lockdowns again. You can point to anything he did at the beginning, but you can't leave out the part that he spent 2021 and 2022, passing laws and being the champion we needed against mandates and saying, look, we are never going to do this again. I wanted to hear Trump so bad come out because he should know more than anybody how destructive those lockdowns were, the mask mandates, the school closures, our economy just being shut down. But he hasn't done that. He hasn't shown that he knows any different or that he learned his lesson, and he sides with Cuomo and says Cuomo did a better job and attacks Ron DeSantis, the only guy that was fighting back.
Actually, it's a good point. Let me ask Ryan.
Ryan.
Let me ask you the question. And you'll know much more about this.
Well, Solomon, let me say something about the COVID stuff, because Trump was in 2020. I remember it was right around the summer, and he was saying stuff around the lines of it would ultimately. I mean, I'm looking at an article right now, August 3rd, 2020. Trump says nationwide lockdown would ultimately inflict more harm than it would prevent. Another article right here. Let's see. Trump criticizes COVID lockdowns. So you were in a situation where he was screwed if he did it, or screwed if he didn't. If he were to have been on the side 24/7 of the lockdowns, he'd be screwed by some people. And the same concept goes for if he didn't do anything. But it was up to the states. That's who were the ones who decided to lock down their states or open up their states early.
Absolutely,
I remember I was down in South
true.
Carolina at Myrtle Beach in the heat of COVID, and the governor didn't have the state lockdown.
This started with 30 days to slow this, or 15 days to slow the spread, and then it moved to 30 days to slow the spread. And he signed the CARES Act, which had money in it to finance the lockdowns, to pay people not to work. He shut down Arlington Cemetery. He shut down parks. He shut down churches. He shut down federal lands, and he was Fauci's lapdog the entire time he was in there. I don't care what he said, or if he said, oh, gee, it would be nice. And not only this, he gives Dr. Fauci and his idiot son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and all these people an award, a presidential commendation on his way out. That tells me that he thinks he did the right thing.
You shouldn't call anyone an idiot.
If you listen to these people, they stick by what they did. Jerome Adams today is posting that, hey, look, lockdowns and mask mandates, you might not like it, but they were just fine. They actually were beneficial, even though we destroyed businesses.
Let me ask Ryan a question. So Ryan, I mean, a real question, and something which I believe that someone probably will ask President Trump in the debate, is what will he do next time when it comes to COVID, when it comes to lockdown? Is he unequivocal that he won't lock down the country, or what has his statement been about that?
I mean, when I had dinner with him, we briefly spoke about COVID, and this was one of the things that he definitely highlighted at the dinner was the lockdowns. He said they didn't work. I remember that verbatim. And he said that, yeah, it wouldn't happen again. But people have to realize this was unprecedented. This hasn't happened since like the Spanish flu. The country didn't have any sort of way to handle this. They didn't have PPE. They didn't have anything in the warehouses for stockpile. So, it was such an interesting situation that if DeSantis were in office, I guarantee probably the same thing would have happened. And you could say, hypothetically, no, that DeSantis won't do that. I get it. You're pro DeSantis. But the reality is it was so unprecedented and nobody knew what to do. And that's why I said that comment where, he's damned if he did, damned if he didn't. But
there was no winning to that. There was no winning whatsoever. But Ryan, he told you directly that he wouldn't lock down the country again.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, 100%. At the dinner, we spoke about Jack Posobiec was there as well, and Jack could back that up.
Okay, well, why doesn't he come out and say it out front? The bottom line is Trump was too afraid of disappointing his lib friends, his rich elitist lib friends, who all told him that, we need to do this vaccine and you need to shut down and you need to listen to Fauci. He was concerned more with the media and what they thought than doing the right thing. We never had to go along with any of this. Look, China can do it. Great Britain can do it. All these other countries can do it. Australia turned into a freaking gulag. We didn't have to go along with any of this. This is what makes America exceptional. This is what makes it special. After 2 weeks to slow the spread,
Trump never locked down anybody or anything.
Fauci into his office and said, Tony,
Governor DeSantis killed 100-year-old vets with a vaccine. didn't
You
he?
keep changing the subject. He should have brought Fauci into his office
DeSantis was
and
a
said,
lockdown
you
governor. That's
are
the subject.
fired. Ron DeSantis fired Scott Rivkees, the little Fauci down here. He couldn't do it right away because I understand there is a process you have to go through to get rid of some of these guys. And I'm not saying getting rid of Fauci would have been easy.
You do know that Trump couldn't even fire Fauci if
brought
he
in
wanted to.
Latipo. And I know you guys think the president is just impotent and Trump shouldn't have. He should have had the foresight to know. And you know what? Him shutting down
Because
the
he's a
country
virologist,
and
right?
what he
Because he's
did.
a medical doctor.
Well,
genius.
guess what?
Trump
When
is
the
just all
founding
that
fathers
weird.
wrote the Constitution, they had been through one of the worst plagues ever. But you know what? You don't find in the Constitution anywhere where it says these rights are suspended because of a fake virus from China. Okay, Trump will never live that down. That is
Then how did DeSantis
legacy.
close down the state?
And he would do
How
it
did
again.
DeSantis do that, Chris? If it wasn't constitutional, how did DeSantis close down schools, the border, churches, the beaches, parks? How did he allow all that?
That wasn't the churches. He signed an executive order early on saying that you cannot
Posted it over and over again. He closed all of those
religious centers
executive orders.
don't have to follow COVID orders. And when Andrew Warren ordered
under the
Howard Brown to be
Constitution,
arrested,
under the Constitution,
Ron
it's
DeSantis stood up for him right away and
One second, Brick.
and signed
Chris.
that order, and he removed Andrew
Chris,
Warren.
let Brick jump in on this now. Brick, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that under the Constitution, only the states have the power to close that type of stuff down. And of course, per the Supreme Court, they retain the right to force vaccinations on citizens if they wish to. Those are
Not in
states' rights.
Florida. Not in Florida.
Yes.
Governor DeSantis signed a law against that.
Wait, Chris. I didn't say that it couldn't be done in Florida. I just said the states have the rights. Now, if Florida wants to change its law, it can go back, and it's constitutional because, as you rightly pointed out, under the enumeration clause of the Constitution, these are not powers that the federal government has. The federal government cannot institute a lockdown. Only the state governments can. Now, I want to move beyond that. The title of the space
bet you
is
do.
Trump.
You don't want
the
to talk
title-
about this.
No, you know why I don't want to talk about it because the title. Shut up. The title of the space
empowered
is
it by signing the CARES Act.
Shut
Chris,
up. The title of the space is Trump returns to X.
Chris. Honestly, I love having you on because you bring a lot of fire to the spaces, but at the same time, I do want to get a bit of conversation going as well. I do want people to have a lot of views, and then we can discuss and analyze it. We've talked about the COVID, and I'm very confident we'll probably come back to that point, but just let Brick make his point about Trump returning, and then we'll get back onto it. Go ahead, Brick.
Yeah, this space is about Trump returning to X, or Twitter as we call it. And, I think it's a pretty watershed moment in the history of this platform, in the new history of this platform since Elon took it over. I think there's a lot of implications here. I think that he's going to bring back a lot of advertisers because he drives traffic. And, I understand that it's been a pretty trying 24 hours in that period for people who support DeSantis. Trump largely overshadowed a lot of the debate with his appearance with Tucker Carlson on Twitter or Tucker on X. And then, the debate didn't necessarily go as well as it could have gone for DeSantis. I don't think it went disastrously, but I don't think it was a home run. And then it culminates with Trump returning to Twitter and the fundraising he's going to be able to do off of the arrest and the mugshot in Atlanta. And, to see this space devolve once again into yet another dead horse beating match about COVID policies, I think is really not what we should be talking about. We should be talking about what does this mean going forward? Is Trump going to go in spaces?
They're trying to bring the lockdowns back, dude. They're trying to bring them back. They're closing schools.
This is all you have. It's the only club you've got. I understand it's the bat you're going to swing with.
I can't have
We're
my
not talking
business
about
shut
that.
down again, dude. Maybe you get a check or something, but I can't have the government shutting down my business.
Hey,
again,
why
okay?
is your account
We can't
name?
live
Why
through
is
that
your
again?
Why is your account named Reopen, Chris? You know why?
Because I
Because
fought to have Florida
closed
reopen.
down
Man,
because of your governor.
You want to ask that question?
You twit.
I
Chris,
bullhorned Ron
Chris,
DeSantis when
Chris,
all the rest of the Trump supporters. And
Chris,
he
nothing
did
you're
what we
saying has
asked, and he
anything to do with the
listened to us.
topic of
He
the
came
room.
through,
And
he
nothing you're
pardoned
saying has
people,
anything to
he
do with the
tied
topic
hands
of
of
the
the
room.
governments. He did
Nothing you're saying
exactly
has
what we
anything to
asked
do
him
with
to
the
do.
topic.
That's when
If
I
this were a
gained respect
plane,
for him.
if this were a plane, the pilots would be calling the FAA to say that they've been hijacked. Okay, nothing you're saying has anything to do with the topic of discussion. I
I know
understand
you
you want
don't
to
want to
inject.
talk about this,
I
but this is what
understand.
people care
I
about a lot
understand you
more
want
than
to
Trump's
inject.
stupid mugshot.
I understand you want to inject your concerns, and about whatever issue you're concerned about into this discussion. But the discussion is about Trump returning to Twitter and what that means for the platform, what that means for his candidacy, and possibly peripherally what that means for some of the Republican candidates who really maybe should, are not viable candidates in the long run. I'm talking about Burgum from North Dakota. I'm talking about Christie. I'm talking about increasingly Nikki Haley looks marginalized, and Tim Scott to a degree as well. So, I mean, if Trump is going to come back to Twitter and suck up all the oxygen out of the social media sphere once again, while the media just blindly falls into the trap that they did in 2016 of giving him all this free coverage, that's something to talk about. And we can, every other time we talk on this space, we can talk about the issues of COVID. We can talk about the issues of, but no fraud was proven, but that doesn't mean it didn't take place. And we can beat that dead horse into the ground, but that ignores the fact that we are looking at a live horse now in the form of President Donald Trump back on the X platform. And it's significant that he's back. Elon Musk retweeted him. He's getting incredible traction. And to just not discuss that and instead go over something we've gone over hundreds of times before, I think is a disservice to everybody who's tuned in today for the title of Trump Returns to X.
And just,
well, I'll tell you, people sitting around their kitchen table are not concerned with Trump.
Chris, I will come back to you, bro. We will talk about COVID. But Alex, thanks for joining us. I mean, just the same question to you that I asked others, because I know you're very active on Twitter, or X as it's called now. Trump returned. He's got almost 200 million views. I think it's 1.4 or 1.6 million likes. I think Elon Musk posted and said he's getting 10 million likes, 10 million views an hour. I mean, this is huge. If you compare that to DeSantis, I think he doesn't even get as much likes as an average user. Like, how big is it for Donald Trump? How big is it for X? What's your thoughts?
I think this is big for both. I know there was reporting that Elon has been really pushing for it because it's, going to help overall user minutes and activity. And certainly he's a very polarizing figure. So you're going to have people that hate him and love him. So that's great for user engagement on the X side of things. And then on Trump, on his side of things, I mean, he has campaign accounts on here, but the total of all of those accounts, I believe, only equals up to 4 million followers. So now he has the 9th largest account on the platform to play with. So he has a significant advantage in terms of reach on the platform. He does have Truth Social still, but I've made this point a few times. He's kind of preaching to the choir. I think 99% of people on Truth Social are going to vote for Trump regardless. So he's not really gaining any ground in an election by just posting there. So it's kind of reaching a new audience. And another point I'll make is, so when he did that CNN town hall, one of the answers that he gave on Ukraine went super viral on Twitter at the time. And it was reaching people like Elon himself and other people that aren't really Trump fans. But he gave a very common sense answer, that being that he is for the end of death of Ukrainians, Russians, everyone, rather than the towing the party line and saying that victory at all costs for Ukraine. Had been like the Lindsey Graham answer or whatever, and that went super viral on Twitter. But the thing is like people, if he just posted that on Truth, or if people weren't posting that on Twitter, it would only be reaching his own audience rather than people in the middle and people he needs to win over in a general election. So having him post himself, not through any filters, it's going to be super important, and I think it's going to help him drive his own agenda, just like in 2016. So I think it's very important right
Do you
now.
think he's going to post simultaneously? So he posts the same content that he posts on Truth Social on X, or do you think he's going to pick and choose?
I think he'll go back and forth. Like, he'll probably continue to use Truth as his primary platform, and especially just like for riling up the base and for fundraising. As far as I know, I don't think he has any exclusivity contracts anymore. I think that ran out in June. But yeah, I think he's still going to use Truth as his primary, but they're probably still strategizing as how they want to use X, because I mean, up to this point, they were strategizing on like what their first post was going to be. So now that that's out of the way, I bet they're discussing how they want to leverage it, and if they want to start retweeting their current assets like the MAGA War Room account and their other campaign accounts, giving those boosts, helping grow their campaign assets as well. So we'll see what their strategy is, but yeah, I think it will be wise to keep his voice on here and not like I hope it doesn't come like a corporate type. You can tell someone else is running it. It should be like coming from him. Because that's in 2016, that's what a lot of people liked.
For sure. And let me go to David. David, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the popularity of his post shows you just how powerful and popular he is. I mean, the guy posts, hasn't been on Twitter since January 6th, essentially. He comes back on, and now 200 million people want to hear what he has to say, or at least has viewed it. So, I mean, he is a powerful figure. I think, we've always been kind of hearing from him on Truth. I mean, from Truth on Twitter, because people would repost his stuff, but now he has a direct microphone to a lot of people in a time where people want to hear from him most. And I think the fact that he chose yesterday just shows how good of a storyteller Donald Trump is. He knows how to set a villain. He knows how to be the hero. And what a perfect story arc with having him show back up on Twitter with what else? His mugshot. The culmination of 4 political indictments. And now here he is on Twitter, rebellious. People are changing their profile pictures. I mean, what a story to tell. And it doesn't end here. This story ends on Election Day in 2024 when he puts his hand on the Bible and he's sworn back in as president of the United States. You really can't write a better American history story. And on that note, I'll say one last thing. And this isn't an attack on Chris, but I will say the fact that the DeSantis people keep going back to COVID shows you how afraid they are. And it also shows you why DeSantis is now at 9% in the polls to Trump's 61%. Brand new poll. He is crushing it out there. Nobody's even coming close. So indict him all you want. You have never seen this man more popular. And I think you could pave the way to his reelection, and it's time we clean up this country. I'll end there.
David, I thought Trump was still president this whole time. Wasn't he secretly commanding from Mar-a-Lago, and he's been president this entire time? And it's not the media. It's not DeSantis and us bringing up COVID. I mean, I would love to bury COVID in the ground with all the rest of the hoaxes in history. But the fact of the matter is, they're not going to let it go on the left. I mean, I don't think you guys understand the nature of what we're up against. I mean, these guys and what Trump did by allowing Fauci to take control and allowing this to be ingrained in our culture.
And all of this is a topic. All of this is a topic for another space.
Okay, you want to talk about Trump's
Trump versus?
I think it's
all of this is another topic for another space, which would be Trump COVID policies versus left COVID policies versus DeSantis COVID policies.
I get you don't want to talk about this, but we can talk about Trump's mugshot. You want to talk about Trump's mugshot? I think it's stupid.
Yeah, I do. I do want to talk about
Brick is right. Brick is right. One second. Because Brick is right. Like, this specific space is going to be about Trump returning to X, the impact it's going to have. What you're talking about is an important issue, as is Ukraine, Russia, as is various other topics. And if Ron DeSantis becomes the front runner, I'm sure we're going to have more spaces specifically talking about these issues. I mean, if it becomes Vivek, then it may not be. But if it becomes DeSantis, then yeah, we will have those spaces. But at the moment, Trump isn't engaging in these debates because he's so far ahead of everybody else put together. So that's the issue we have right now. But we will be talking about.
Well, because he's a chicken, but I fully
Right.
tried to take over and hijack your space, Suleiman, and I can't believe you're not letting me hijack it right now, man. Come on, man. I want to talk about. I think it's more important. I mean, in changing your picture to the Trump mugshot. Look, guys, he's not Martin Luther King. All right, he did some
It would be
dumb
an
stuff.
improvement
better
in
than
your
Martin.
case, Chris.
This is not something to be
You
proud
really
of.
should
I mean,
consider
Chris,
it,
there is
You need
a
to start
Chris,
making
there
your
is
way
a there
back
is a
in the fold,
so,
Chris.
Chris, there is a video going around of DeSantis's face, the way he looked in the debate. It's quite funny. Maybe you should change it to that. That'd be hilarious. But anyway, let's go into Ryan, because I want to give Chris some backup, because I know Ryan is I believe, I could be wrong on Ryan. Do correct me, Ryan James. Ryan, yeah. What is your thought? I believe you're a DeSantis supporter, but I could be wrong. But what's your?
No, he's not.
Is he not? Ryan, I thought you were a
Um,
DeSantis fan.
Well, I am. I don't know. What
Oh wait,
Chris
oh
is
sorry,
talking
wrong
about.
Ryan. My bad.
Come on, bro. Don't disown the guy.
Um,
Ryan, what's your thoughts about Trump returning to Twitter?
I mean, it's exciting in the sense like for social media, but I do want to give a little context. His post has less retweets or reposts than Ellen DeGeneres' selfie with like a bunch of people at the Oscars. I mean, it's not. It didn't. I mean, yeah, it had a lot of views, but I don't think that means much. And I think that sometimes that gets lost in a conservative echo chamber is the fact that you have to think of how this does look to a lot of people who voted for Trump the first time and then voted for Biden the second time. And there are a lot of people who have that opinion. And I don't know anyone, and maybe it's just me, I don't know them, but I don't know anyone who voted for him and then sat there and said, oh, this changes everything. I now want to now I want to vote for the guy who was indicted 80 times over the last 4 months or 5 months, or the cases over 4 states. That's very. I don't think that this is as Twitter is not real life. I don't think that this presents real life. I think that Trump missing the debate last 3 days ago was actually a huge mistake for him politically, and yeah, I think that this is a very overhyped by conservative echo chambers, which have a tendency to overhype things like this.
Why are you in an-
Ryan,
are you in
just a
an
quick
echo
question.
chamber?
I get what you're saying, but what about his post? Like, it's got 200 million views, 1.4 million likes. I mean, I guess that's because he came back after a long time, but I mean, that's engagement.
Well, it was also retweeted by very big accounts, and it's a very big news story. It's the first president that was ever taken a mugshot. So, I mean, yeah, I think, but views don't count as anything. I mean, OJ driving down a highway right now would have had a lot of views in a white Bronco. So I don't think that means anything, and I don't think that all the posts have been positive. And once again, to a lot of people living in the suburbs of Philadelphia, in the suburbs of Atlanta, in the suburbs of Phoenix that decided the last election and swung heavily away from the Republican Party, I don't think this is a positive thing. And I think that Republicans, as they often do, kind of get stuck in echo chambers. I think the bigger thing was that during the debate, I really don't think Trump was missed a lot. And I think that a bigger problem for him was that, it kind of puts everyone in the past rather than the future.
Ryan, let me ask you a question on the debate. The way I saw the debate, I remember we streamed it on here, was there was a lot of people there. So there's like a lot of candidates. They didn't get a significant amount of time. So, I mean, when I listened to the debate, not because of the content, I was actually part of it as the content. It seemed like a very good decision for Trump to do so, because he would have just seemed like one of the pack. He would only got a few comments in. Like later, when there's a lot less people, I think at that point would hold a lot more merit. But when there's so many people, I feel like that didn't. But what's your thoughts?
Well, it's a moment to break out. I mean, it's a very big chance to sit there and lose a lot. That is true, but it could have also been an opportunity for him to bury the other candidates, and maybe he didn't want to get on the stage with Chris Christie or whatnot, and then having a 3% threshold and a 50,000 donor threshold will be much higher, and will be something that he'd be more willing to do. But at the same time, it was a breakout moment. Nikki, I mean, there's been 2 post-election debate polls, and Nikki Haley and DeSantis both saw a huge spike in their support. in both of those polls, and I think that that means something. I think that it becomes a position now where people are having a conversation past him, and his numbers did go down because I think that he was not completely. I wasn't missed like the way that people sit there and say, "Wow, there's really a hole in the room." There were sparks, there was energy, there was ideas, and people kind of, I don't know. I think you forget somebody. Remember back in 2015, Trump did not enter the last debate in Iowa. And he was ahead in all the polls in Iowa, obviously not by as much as he's ahead of the polls now, but he lost Iowa in large part by refusing to go to that debate. He did some veterans thing instead. I forget exactly what it was, but it was some veterans thing. But he lost a huge amount of support this time because of refusing to go to the debate. These early voters in these early states take these things very seriously. And if they feel like you're snubbing them, they don't necessarily jump on. And as far as the amount of money being raised from the Trump paraphernalia that's going to come out, that will be split between many different organizations that are all producing Trump paraphernalia, not associated with the Donald Trump campaign. I mean, a lot of companies are going to be selling that mugshot on everything from T-shirts to coffee mugs and whatnot. So
he's really improving the economy, and he still is a year away from being the president again.
Well, he probably won't be the president again. So
yeah, he probably will.
He probably won't be the
president
again.
Will.
I mean, I do this for a living, and you just bullshit on Twitter. So I'm telling you,
no.
You might want to listen.
I'm a lawyer for a living, and you bullshit on Twitter for a living.
You do not do this for a living. You don't work in politics. You've never won a campaign before in your life. Trump is in a much weaker space.
I've never gone on a space and shilled for a dip like you either.
You do it every day. I see you on a Twitter space every day doing that.
All right, guys.
I know you love me. Stop.
Let's not make it personal. I think Ryan made some salient points. Even if you disagree with it, I think, Doc, if you want to refute or rebut, that'd be more better.
No, I mean, really, it's entertaining to have these competing voices in the space. I think the space is, I agree, better for it. But I think the contest is over between DeSantis and Trump. I think Trump has secured the nomination. I completely disagree with Ryan from the standpoint that he hasn't seen an upswing in support for Trump as a result of this. That you just poo-poo this with an
element. There has not been a single poll released from the mugshot. So what are you talking about?
You don't trust.
There's been
two anecdotal,
polls.
Ryan, and I don't trust.
Listen, I didn't disparage. I didn't interrupt you, Ryan. Said, no matter how idiotic it was.
Okay, go ahead.
So let me just say
away.
Things.
Go ahead.
There were two polls post debate. Trump lost support in both polls. He
doesn't need the support.
He doesn't.
The polls were about performance in the debate.
No, they weren't. No, they weren't.
One second, Ryan, one second, because Ryan said that. Wait a second, David. Did you not say that there was a poll, and in the poll that since the mugshot he'd gone ahead, or what was it? Can you just clarify?
60. It was 60. I'll find the poll, but it was 61% for Trump.
It was you're talking about a Leaguer poll, which is a Canadian polling firm. It's the same polling firm that had Trump down 20 points against Joe Biden in 2020, and it had him in 12 points.
Well, that must be fair then, right?
No, it is a very historically inaccurate polling company. It's known as one of the worst in all of North America. And that is the only poll. And it was taken.
How is that evidence that it's wrong in this?
Let me just finish talking and you can hear.
Oh my God.
It was taken before both the debate and the mugshot. The poll was from almost a week ago. So it wasn't like the sample size is not the sample size, but the poll was not taken recently.
I'm going to find it and I'm going to post it. So then you could poo-poo all over the poll all you want, but until I do,
you can look at it. I don't care. Listen, believe whatever polls you want. I don't care. It's not going to hurt my feelings.
Then why are you citing it?
I wasn't citing it at all.
You did. You're the one. You named it, brought it up, and analyzed it.
I did not. He mentioned it, and I just knew what poll it was because actually I do this.
No, Ryan. I think you mentioned about the polling, and then that's why I went to David.
No, I did not mention that.
No, not that poll. You mentioned polling generally.
Yeah, there were two other polls that were taken in the last day when it came.
Put them up above.
I'm not going searching. It was the Washington Post poll, which is Washington Ipsos. I'm telling you.
I'm looking at the poll right now. Interactive polls, IA polls 2022. I'm going to put it in the nest here in a second. Trump 61% plus 52. DeSantis 9%. Ramaswamy 5%.
What was the date?
This was from say the 25th. This was from 11:41 a.m. this morning. It's 5:38.
No, when
I'm
was
gonna
the
put it up
poll?
right now.
Not when it
Wait
was
1
released,
second.
but when was it taken?
August 20 between
The only poll I
between August
need is
23rd
that
and
Trump.
August 24th. It's 5:38. I'm
So
gonna
it
put
was
it up.
taken before the debate, and it was taken before the.
No,
That's
the
exactly
debate
what
was
I
on
said.
the
Kansas
23rd.
supporters
Yesterday was the
didn't believe in
24th.
polls
So,
anymore.
so it was taken
Either way, I'm
before the
gonna put it
debate.
up.
Was the
Hang
poll.
on a second.
That's fine. I'm just telling you the facts. It was taken before the debate. Listen, I'm not
No,
disparaging
one second,
anybody in this
Ryan.
thing.
Ryan,
I mean,
let's just get to the point of this. So the debate happened on the 23rd. Is that right? And the poll
yeah,
and the
and the
poll
poll was
occurred
probably
on the
taken.
23rd and the 24th. David, is
No.
that what you're claiming?
Yeah, I just posted it to the whatever you guys are called, the jumbotron, the nest, whatever you call it.
No,
the
but
thing above it.
yeah, but just
It says
obviously I'm
August
looking-
23, August 24th is
Okay, and the debate happened on the 23rd.
the
correct?
23rd. Yes.
Okay, so the debate happened.
so
The
then-
polling happened during, possibly, and after the debate, but before the
Fine.
mugshot. Is that right, Ryan?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
clearly
Ryan's
taken
wrong.
from the shot. No, it was taken clearly. I was thinking of the Leisure poll. That's what I thought you were talking about. The poll that the Leisure poll was also 61%. Maybe it was the same polling from they cited it other.
I think it's the same
The
poll
two
because
poll-
it says
I don't-
at
I don't
Leisure
know.
360. So I think you're right on that.
Yeah, so then it's the Leisure poll. So it's not so Leisure once again is one of the most inaccurate polling firms in the entire continent. The two polling firms I was referring to was the Ipsos poll and the poll in Iowa.
And you do this for a living? Jeez.
Yes, the Ipsos poll. I'm telling you, I mean, it's taken 2 days ago. The Ipsos poll and the poll in Iowa was by, it wasn't WPAI, but it was by one of those other firms. Anyway, more accurate than Leisure. Leisure is a polling firm I would never
So
cite
Ryan,
publicly.
just go into your poll. What does it show? So just to explain to the audience. So what was the question and what does it show?
Well, I mean, the two of the biggest polls that come out to more accurate polling firms show that Trump lost support. I think 6% or 2%, 6% in one poll, 2% in the other. Haley and DeSantis gained. The support of Trump in Iowa, anyway, which was taken by the Selzer poll. Selzer is the best pollster in America. Show that Trump's obviously in the lead, but it's very soft. And there was a lot of people who could be convinced of changing their support. And I mean, we'll see when the caucus day happens in January. But I think that back to the original point, which was the mugshot. I think a lot of this is in is Republican or conservative circles rather than what people in America are feeling about it.
Okay, let me go to Brick. Brick, I know you got your hand up. What's your thoughts on what Ryan just said?
Well, first of all, I gotta say I respect Ryan's opinions on polling. I know that he is an expert in this field. I don't always agree with him, but I will cite that he does have a body of knowledge there that needs to be recognized. But I can say this too. I saw some videos that I didn't think I was going to see out of Atlanta, and I saw what appeared to be, the populace of Atlanta on the sides of the streets as the Trump motorcade was approaching the Fulton County Jail, cheering and yelling "Free Trump." I saw real support for President Trump in Atlanta, and I'm seeing stuff. This is a day later, but I'm starting to now see the reposted TikToks, the reposted feeds from other platforms where people are really saying, "I can't believe they did this to Trump. I can't believe they made him get a mugshot. He's one of us now. He's got credit." I'm seeing a lot of stuff like that, and so I think that
What do you mean by that? What do you mean he's one of us now? What are you talking about? Like a criminal?
I'm directly quoting one of the videos. All right, and
Okay.
So
It's up in the nest. I put one up in the nest. Just one of them.
all right, so so I think that Trump's return to X has had an immediate impact. Okay, whether or not it's going to be a long-lasting impact, I think, just like ALX said, I think that really is going to be, is the account going to be run like a sterile account, like, say, for any other politician where you could tell it's the staff and the interns running it? Or are we going to get mean tweets? Are we going to get Donald Trump back? And so if that comes back the way it should, the way I would like it to be, and it doesn't have to be every post that he makes has to be on Twitter. If it's only an occasional platform, that's fine. But it's got to be an authentic engagement from him. And I believe that it will be. And I think that it can, him being back on X as an engine to affect public opinion. And so we're talking so much about polls. I think this is a real opportunity going forward for him to gain traction in the polls. And whether or not that increases his lead or just keeps him from having losses of support versus other candidates, I think there's no way you can say that him not being on X isn't going to be a factor. I believe it's going to be a factor.
Well, Ron DeSantis got in his head so much after that debate that Trump tweeted or posted on True Social 14 times. Had an absolute meltdown after that. I mean, DeSantis is in his head. I mean, lodged a permanent residence. I mean, this guy just has a meltdown. And I'm telling you, it's because DeSantis hit it out of the park in the debate. Hannity said so. Everybody was saying so. He connected with voters in that debate. He's making a lot of ground in Iowa, and Trump's really scared. And I wouldn't be surprised if you did see Trump actually show up to the next debate.
Let me go to Preston. Preston, go ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the only reasons that Chris wants to talk about DeSantis so much is because if wearing heels weren't enough, if powdering his face between the intermissions during the debate wasn't enough, Trump being mugshotted in the coldest, most absolutely badass look is the final blow for the DeSantis campaign. So
he looked like he drank pickle
juice.
juice.
Hold on, I let you drone on. Let me talk. Chris, we're praying for you. We say bless your heart here in the South, but the campaign, it's over for you guys. And we understand that. I was in Atlanta yesterday. I was on, the scenes where everything was happening. I was going through the streets, even beyond the jail. And I could see that there was a tremendous, overwhelming support for President Trump. So when guys like Ryan get up here and say that, he thinks that Trump snubbed people because he didn't show up to a debate, well, it's not showing when he comes to this jailhouse, because I can tell you the streets were lined with supporters that were minorities coming out of the woodworks for their support for Trump. So, yeah, we've got somebody like a phoenix out of the ashes right now. Trump is surging in these polls. We're not going to listen to people like Chris Nelson, who's got a floundering career because his candidate's going down the tubes. And we're not going to listen to someone like Ryan, who is a career poll. I don't know. What does he do? Does he measure poll? I'm not sure. Trump is doing tremendously well. We saw that yesterday. I can tell you the scenes were electric yesterday on the ground there. And anyone who's telling you any different is full of shit, honestly.
Well, was there that group there that was at the Miami courthouse screaming "F DeSantis" and
there was about 3 people.
Did they show up? I mean,
you can go look at my Twitter feed.
Around with Trump.
You can go look at my Twitter feed. There was about 3 of them. 2 were dressed as rats. 1 was dressed as an inmate. I was in their face. They had a megaphone in my ear. Same types of people like you. You just typical hecklers. You have nothing good to say, so you just yell and scream. And they were not doing anything. Of course, the mainstream media had all eyes on them when the whole overwhelming majority of the crowd was pro-Trump. But we were doing a tremendously, and everybody was so nice. We had blacks for Trump there yesterday. Tremendous crowd of people. You had about it. I mean,
you mean the Black Hebrew Israelite guys?
There was. Okay. They're about 20 or 30 black for Trump, and they were just so encouraging about having someone that they could relate to. They, growing up in an urban community, I'm sure they understand. A lot of the times the justice system can be tremendously flawed. So to see a president, you guys talk about this mugshot like it's nothing big. A president has never been given a mugshot. Can we please just talk about that? Like, that's not I don't understand why you guys don't think we should give it air. But listen, they see this and they say, hey, the justice system's been coming down on us for a long time the wrong way. And now they're coming down on a president for wanting to put America first? Absolutely not. And they're showing up in numbers to make their voices heard peacefully. And I can tell you, not one of them like Fannie Willis. I know you probably do, Chris. And I know DeSantis probably does. But in between his powdering his nose and, trying to tiptoe on his heels on the debate stage, Trump didn't miss a thing at that debate. He had a lot more pressing issues to tend to, and now he's on Twitter, and we're doing a whole lot better than your candidate is.
Yeah, like getting arrested, and hey,
hey, I'm
there cowboy boots and nose powdering, over what Trump's doing any day, and there's DeSantis, and you got to look at okay. So Preston thinks that that Donald Trump, the way he connects with black people is by getting arrested, because I guess that Preston thinks a lot of black people get arrested.
No,
But,
that's the case.
Trump-
Look at the statistics. Yeah, it is the case. A lot of black people get arrested in America. It's statistics.
But while this is happening, Ron DeSantis is on the baseball field at the Field of Dreams with his son. I'm telling you,
High
this-
heels.
wait,
Honestly,
Trump
high
going back-
heels and a
he's going
sweater
to
vest.
be
Jay, that
the
Trump
what
given a
this
mugshot.
is what
He could have
independence is.
heard.
Okay, guys. Let's keep this on topic. And let me go to David. David,
I'm serious. He really could have hurt his back on those boots.
I'm gonna get you back on topic.
Man, wearing cowboy boots, that's the manly thing, dude. But I'll tell you, no, they're not very comfortable. So you do sacrifice a lot by wearing those boots, man. And I'll tell you, they turned me from 6'1" to 6'3", man. And then I can walk around all big and badass. I love those cowboy boots, man.
All right, so I'm going to get us back on topic. One interesting thing about Trump returning to X, and I thought it was interesting. He didn't tweet it all today either. He left, the other one still standing. It's possible that he only uses X for like specific things, like he did last night, and he might not be as active. DWC's or DWAC, I think their board was meeting this week to try to get more time to make the deal go through. So the timing is kind of interesting too. Like maybe he was trying to show the power he has on Twitter. There might have been other factors on why he was getting on. I don't even know whether we call it Twitter or X or Twitter X or whatever. But yeah, so it's possible that he only uses the platform for very specific things. But the other interesting thing about Trump returning to X is, one of the reasons why they said that he shouldn't have debated was because of all the indictments, and what if he goes off script and says something that they can try to use against him. And X certainly has a higher audience, a larger audience than Truth does. So you wonder if he is going to be kind of limited and more scripted on Twitter because of all the indictments and not wanting to kind of give anything to any of these prosecutors. So that'll be something interesting to watch with how much more reserved he is this time he's on X versus last time when when he would just let anybody have it in the middle of the night. So it'll be interesting how he uses X.
Yo, guys, I got to chime in here. Gary Cardone. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the shill over there. Ryan, dude, I'm sure it's a bad day for you. Probably been a bad week. But if you are defending the other side against Trump, this is a laydown, dude. Because so far in 45 minutes, I have not heard any logic whatsoever out of you other than one-sided deviations on reality. Even the way we talk about a mugshot. The guy was, forced to go to court first time any president in the United States. We should all be appalled. Okay? Like, I don't give a fuck if he did something a little wrong, kept some files. I'm pretty sure they all kept files. So, like, we all have to, like, get off our high horse and look what's going on. Someone other than us is controlling the entire way we live, how we make our money, how we're taxed, monitored, filtered, the rules. It's outrageous. I mean, we're at war with a country that we have no business being at war with. And I don't know anyone that supports it, that our tax dollars would go to a war, another war. So, like, dude, I actually respect you, but like, you can't possibly defend your position with what you have. I mean, I'm going to go buy a t-shirt. I'll probably buy 1,000 t-shirts. If you don't think this isn't right up his alley for marketing, this is what America responds to, dude. Like, this is what our last 50 decades has given us for education. Our entire population loves reality TV more than productive, educated, economically sound environment. So I'm going to leave it with that.
Well, thanks for admitting that Trump and all the people around him are like running a reality show. But I got news for you, buddy. We don't have time for a reality show right now. Our country's on the line. We have to win. It's a layup if we put Ron DeSantis.
How long are we going to have to like loser DeSantis?
I'm gonna go to DeSantis because they're not had a chance to jump in. But Chris, first of all, that was hilarious, right? Good job. But coming back to the point, I do think that Gary has made a salient point, and I'll explain why. This mugshot Obviously, if it was done in a certain manner, could have made him look really bad. But the way his PR team, the way his support basically turned that around, and it's basically, I think he mentioned about buying shirts. People talked about mugs. I'm looking on Twitter, and there's so many profile pictures of his mugshot, Ryan being one of them on stage. Literally, he turned this into a huge PR campaign, which worked significantly well. And then he does a post on Twitter which gets 200 million views. He'll have got a huge amount of donations even from that and a huge amount of support. Like, this worked out. Like, as much as even if you disagree with him, Chris, or not, perfect moves by his PR team, perfect moves by him. What do you think?
Well, Trump is a very good marketer. I mean, he marketed Trump University. The one thing I love about Trump, I'll tell you, he made some great ties.
Did you join?
Yeah. Did I join? I'm here. Can you hear me?
Did you graduate?
No, did you graduate from Trump University?
He made some great ties, okay? And these ties that Trump made, they were very
Chris,
long.
I think you're rubber banding.
Okay, can you hear me better now?
No, still can't hear you.
Still doing?
You're cutting out a lot.
It's really bad.
All right.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, all right. So, Trump made these great ties, okay? And they're great for guys with long torsos, okay? And they're very good designs. I will forever be grateful for Donald Trump. I haven't worn a tie in a long time, but for making excellent ties, okay? The guy's a great reality show star. He's a great marketer, and a lot of the people around him are reality show stars. He can take that and go to Hollywood or start a new reality show or something. We have business to do in this country. We don't have time to play around. We don't have time to put up a guy who will definitely not win the general election when we have somebody who will be a layup. All these things are just speculative unless we win this election. We don't even know if this guy's going to be able to appear on the ballot in all states. We don't know what his legal status is going to be. On the other hand, we have a guy who is serious, who seriously knows how to get things done, knows how to run a state, knows how to keep a budget, knows how to take on the left, knows how to tie the hands of these recalcitrant school board members and mayors and boot them out of office when necessary, knows how to take on the deep state, has done it here in Florida. I get it. You guys all love Trump. It's sad the Mickey Mouse Club's coming to an end.
He knows how to go to war.
Your little red hats and all these things. I get it. I was a Trump supporter. It sucks. But guess what? There is life after Trump. I'm sorry that he's going through this. It must be really sad. I feel more sorry for people around him that got caught up in this. The Proud Boys are facing 33 years in jail. He hasn't done jack squat for them. And,
Hey, Chris, serious
I have a lot more
question.
concern for them.
Can I
But
ask you a serious question, Chris?
And I got
Are you bothered, Chris? Are you bothered at all that you're perfectly in alignment with the Democrats and more than the Democrats, right?
By
the
supporting Ron
fascists
DeSantis,
and the avowed
the guy who
communists.
the Democrat,
Are you
the guy who
bothered
has
by
stuck
that
it to the
fact that
Democrats more
you've
than
taken the
anybody?
same
Ron
political
DeSantis
position?
Ron DeSantis has
It's a simple
taken
question.
on
I'm asking it very politely. Will you please answer it?
more than anybody. So siding
Don't
with the
want to answer
Democrats
it, do you?
and siding
I
with
don't blame you.
and talk about siding with Democrats. You had Trump's people meeting with CNN before the debate. You had these.
Has Hillary called you yet? Maybe the Democrats will pick you up after DeSantis drops out. What do you think?
You had Jason
I'm
Miller
pulling
there.
for you. I got my fingers crossed for
with
you, Chris.
CNN before the debate.
Guys, please stop interrupting each other.
Okay, Doc tries to talk over me to drown me out, but I'm not going to let him.
Breaking
news: the Trump campaign.
One second, guys. One second. Too many people interrupting. I want to go to Dustin because I did cut him off last time. Dustin, what's your thoughts? Sorry, that's a double mute. What happens? Go ahead.
There it goes.
Hey,
Listen,
Suleiman, I got to bounce. Thanks. I got to
breaking
for an
news.
with you tomorrow, but thanks for hosting the space, Suleiman. I love crashing the spaces. Everybody have a good day.
Appreciate you coming on, Chris.
You don't have to
Chris.
go anywhere, Chris.
Go ahead, Dustin.
Listen, breaking news: the Trump campaign does media, really stunning and crazy stuff. I can't believe it. Listen, I don't want to take the bait though. Donald Trump was the greatest of all time on this platform. Most entertaining account to follow. His interactions, the fact that he actually used it the way all of us regular people do, right? He'd be like scrolling through, and he'd be like, "Oh, this Hung Daddy 69 guy made a great comment. Let's retweet him," and like just blow it up. It was the funnest thing that happened on this platform, right? Was following Donald Trump. So his return is monumental. And I want to point something out that we were hearing, like a couple people like, oh, 200 million views. Ellen DeGeneres had a tweet once that did bigger than that. listen, how much would these campaigns pay for 200 million views and impressions on this platform? I bet we could actually probably lay that out and come to like a specific number. That is all free advertising on behalf of the campaign. He uses it more brilliantly than anybody did before. He wrote it all the way to the White House, baby. So having him back, I really want him to start getting in spaces, right? Could you imagine President Trump mixing it up with people on the audio platform of this, right? I think he's got to start big, right? It's got to be something with Elon and maybe a couple other like high profile people. But I organized, and nobody knows this, but I organized a presidential debate on Twitter in 2012 that was attended by everybody but Mitt Romney, essentially on the right, like all the Republicans. It was terrible. Like, frankly, the character limit just didn't make for good debate. However, why couldn't we have a full-blown presidential debate right here on this platform in Spaces, right? Again, you don't have to go through all the extra cost of getting people together in person. The audience would be absolutely phenomenal. And all you need is somebody to like put it together. If Trump said yes, we could get anybody else that we wanted to get in here. So like, this is the next big phase for the campaign. And for Trump,
totally agree with you, man.
There's got to be a little element of the like, right? Once you take the taste, right? Like he's been off the Twitter wagon for a while. Now he's got the taste. You can believe he'll be on here mixing it up before we know it.
Sure.
And I'm here for
Justin,
it.
you make again some excellent points. Like Trump returning to Twitter is first of all huge for Twitter. It's huge for Trump. The amount of engagement he gets is significant. And look, Trump wants to come on Spaces. Bring him here. We will do the biggest Spaces with Donald Trump. It would be amazing. Would be looking forward to that. And definitely there needs to be a presidential debate on Spaces. I totally agree. But let me go to ALX before I go to Alpha. Go ahead, Alex. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, so just, I mean, from since it devolved kind of into Trump DeSantis, there's, just a couple points. There's all this rhetoric about, oh, there's life after Trump, blah, blah, blah. Like, I think it's, you need to take rhetoric like that and flip it on its head, and that there's life after DeSantis, considering the numbers that we're seeing right now in the polls, and also the criticism that Twitter isn't real life. Are we forgetting that DeSantis launched his campaign on this platform? I'm a little confused how they don't think that it's a big deal for, Trump to come back on the platform, considering they launched it on Spaces themselves. If they didn't think it was such a big deal, then why would they launch their campaign on this platform? Clearly, there's, something bigger happening on this platform. Elon has promised that, even though it seemed like he was going to support DeSantis initially, that, he'd offer that same thing to all candidates. Vivek Ramaswamy took him up on that as well. He did space with Robert Kennedy. So clearly it is an important factor to presidential campaigns. So to brush it off just because now that it's Trump, who is, again, like I said, the 9th biggest account on this platform, and he's been dormant for the past 4 years, to say that it's like not a big deal is kind of cope.
So Alex, let me ask you a question on that. So first of all, he's the 9th biggest, but we know once if he starts tweeting, he'll end up becoming like top 3, right? Now, my question to you is, if he does come on Spaces, like real question, would the platform be able to manage a space if he was to be on it? Like, have they got the capability to do so? We know with DeSantis, the numbers were really good. And many people said the reason for that was because Elon was on there at the same time. But imagine you had a space with Elon, with Trump.
Correct. That's exactly what I was going to say. It would depend on if Elon joined himself as well, which I think that would break Spaces. The 2 of the top 10 accounts on this platform in a space together, and it totals over probably like 300 million between the 2 of them. Like that would.
That'd be a great network. That'd be a great network stress
test. Yeah, great stress test for you. But I'd like to see it. I mean, it seems like they've been working on Spaces. I know they just made that announcement today about all the improvements they've made on video in Spaces. A lot of people that aren't like content creators, or so I help manage Benny Johnson's social media account. So I know this, but there is Media Studio. I'm not sure if anyone else is familiar with it, but one of the annoying points is that we would do launches of long videos. However, you couldn't upload anything longer than 10 minutes on Media Studio. You'd have to go in web. So they just fixed that today. So now you can upload up to, I think it's 2 or 3 hours in the Media Studio. So you can take videos, put it in there, and you can publish it at any time. You can schedule it. So it's, kind of starting to rival YouTube in that regard, that you can just save it like as a draft. But yeah, it seems like they're actively improving capabilities of the platform. So seeing that they improved video and the Media Studio, aspect of things, I'd like to see how much they've improved Spaces since that initial launch of DeSantis's campaign. But yeah, that would be excellent stress test. I agree.
Let me go to Alpha. Alpha, I know you wanted to jump in. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I'll try to fly through it real quick since some more hands popped up. Just first, to Randy when he came in trying to insult Doc when he's just like, I do this for a living. The one thing that we've learned in the last 2 years is doctors do doctor stuff for a living. And we saw the medical information that was putting out there. All these people that think this prior experience holds the weight that it does. No, people are awakening to, when we do our own independent research, we're realizing that a lot of the information you tell us is just templated information anyways. And for him to say, well, my world's the campaign, and you're going to come out and say that DeSantis and Nikki Haley did a phenomenal job in not going to the campaign hurt Trump. You just told everybody that you don't know shit about what campaigning is like in this day and age. The other thing with regards to Trump returning to X, I mean, it's one of the best things that could have happened for Elon, because the last week or so, he's been taking a lot of heat with all the codes and stuff that have been being revealed with censorship, who's getting paid what. And this just took a lot of pressure off Elon and just brought a lot of hype right back to Twitter. So that part's good. The other thing is, when you have a lot of people, whether it's DeSantis people or some of these other party simpers come out and say, oh, the arrest, there's a large population of people that have been arrested and still have the ability to vote. And when you insult them like that, you're showing that you don't understand the amount of people out there right now that are just pissed off at what the government's doing. You don't understand that there's a bunch of parents pissed off when the government's calling them domestic terrorists. And now you just had Trump in his entourage. That wasn't a convoy yesterday. It was an entourage show up to, Fulton County Jail and dictate how it's going to run. I mean, he got street credit. He made a connection with a lot of people he didn't have a connection with. And for people to ignore the value in that, you're missing what's going on. I think it's a huge game changer. And I think that Elon's probably going to get him on Spaces as quick as he can, given, the views that he had from Tucker, the views he had from the mugshot, and then doing a space. I think that it's going to blow Twitter up.
Completely agree. Let me go to Bricksuit. Oh, sorry. Let's go Sarah and then Bricksuit. Sarah, go ahead.
If you all remember when Trump was active on Twitter, he was active on Twitter. This is just one post. We haven't seen him. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is his grand return, but I will say that Trump understands social media better than any other candidate out there. And if he were to do Spaces, I imagine that this entire site would probably crash. But I would hope that if he is returning to this app, that he not only utilizes Spaces, because I think that's where it would be a landslide. No other candidate would be able to touch him. And it pains me to say that.
You're quite right. No one could touch him. Let's go to Brick.
Yeah, another thing too that we haven't talked about, but peripherally related to X is, the DOJ is coming after Elon for SpaceX, and so, at the time when Trump is being persecuted by America's government, you've basically had the DOJ going to Elon and saying, SpaceX did not hire enough illegal aliens and refugees, and that you have violated their rights, and so we're going to sue you. And the flip side of that is, because of the nature of SpaceX technology, they can't hire non-American citizens. And he even said that he was barred from hiring Canadian citizens because they were not from the United States. And Canada, obviously an ally, one of the Five Eyes, member of NATO, still couldn't hire anybody from Canada for SpaceX. So at the same time that you have, President Trump being persecuted, and believe me, we're all on here a lot. Everybody here who's up as a speaker, I know, is on Twitter a lot. We're all plugged into the politics. But, people now who are not on Twitter, who are not following social media, are beginning to see all of these indictments. And it doesn't look to them, increasingly it looks to them like it's a fix. The fact that they all came up within a 2-month period with the, right at the beginning of primary season, with the elections practically on the horizon, obviously that's not a coincidence, and people are going to look at that, and it's just going to, I see it as a game changer. The more they try and do something deliberately to keep conservatives down, the less it works. Multiple indictments didn't work. The mugshot didn't work. Telling Elon Musk that he has to hire more aliens and refugees, that's not going to work either. It's not going to make him feel really, like sympathetic towards the left. So, I really want President Trump to come back here to X, to be making tweets more frequently. But absolutely right now, leaving his one tweet up there, 100%.
Did we lose Brick?
Oh, I wasn't sure if that was me or him. Brick, yeah, we did lose you. And let me go to Joe. Joe, obviously you saw the mammoth post that President Trump posted. A quick question before I ask you the actual question. Did you like it, Joe?
The poll.
No, no, Trump's post. Did you give him a like?
I think.
Were you one of the 1.6 million?
Maybe, because the mugshot.
No, were
I'm not
you?
even
It's
sure.
not maybe. Were you or were you not?
I don't remember. I know I commented for sure. I don't know if I liked it or not.
Okay. So, I mean, I was just trying to see, because you were like, oh, people might like it. People might do it here, like. But, Joe, a question to you is, I mean, look at it. Trump, as much as you may believe that a lot of them likes were out of anger, the guy is social media. Like, the guy is the most popular thing in the world, probably. Like, who else can post and get that kind of engagement?
I mean, I would correct something you're saying. He's the most
please
polarizing.
do,
he's the most polarizing candidate. So you're going to have a lot of comments that are negative, as you've seen. You're going to have some people like it because they like the mugshot of him, just like some people that support him are going to comment and also like it because they like him. I don't think.
No, but Joe, like, I don't disagree with that, because polarizing is that you're creating some kind of interest in a second individual, in another individual. So, like, someone who is boring, irrespective of if they were extremely divisive, people wouldn't engage. But they're engaging with Trump because he is interesting. And I get that he evokes feelings, both positive and negative. That's what makes you successful on Twitter. I mean, there's a reason that
100%.
There's a reason the Krastensteins literally became famous. They became, I mean, well known on Twitter, isn't it? Because they were Trump's reply guys. Like, Trump made them. Is that not right?
Yeah, I mean, there's even with clients in the past that I would always tell them, if no one hates you, no one's going to love you either. Like, the worst thing you can be is neutral, right? He's definitely not neutral, and that's played in his favor.
And so that's the point, Joel. Like, he is definitely not neutral. I think everybody agrees he's divisive, but he is so interesting. Like, the guy can tweet, and look how badly it blows up. And so let me. Sorry, go on, Joel.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I wonder, right, is I've always wondered why it was taking him so long to come back, right? Because he does need this platform, right? In terms of he's not a great fundraiser, although he has raised funds this time. People are supporting him, but in comparison to why I believe he lost last time, Biden did outraise him, right? So he can make up for that using his platforms. Truth Social is not giving him the reach that this platform gives him. Is that because of the fact that he raised money for Truth Social and it doesn't really allow him for coming back here? Like if Mario was to start his own platform and he got investors, part of that contract would be like, look, you're going to post here and not on Twitter anymore, right? But I don't know what that negotiation is. I don't know if he's allowed to, if he's not allowed to, start using this platform full time. I don't know what that does to Truth Social. Like, there's business decisions that need to be made on that.
Can I throw something in on
Yeah,
that,
please
Jella?
do, because I'm not aware. Maybe you know something I don't know.
But let me Justin. Actually, I want to go to that because I want. No, go ahead, Justin. Actually, answer that, then I'll jump in.
I just wanted to throw in. Trump was clearly saving it as a chit, right? Which is he knew that this was going to be a big deal, and the campaign was clearly holding on to it for a moment that they needed to change the momentum, which is why we saw them do it with the mugshot picture. It was perfect timing and perfect use of what they knew was going to be a big deal.
And Joe, you're a marketing guy, isn't it? I mean, just from like a completely neutral perspective, because I know you're able to do that. I mean, that the move they made, the time it will come into Twitter, the way they did it. I mean, that for me, it was a perfect PR move. What's your thought?
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's people who are family with people who have been targeted, and when you are targeted by the government, it is not the most pleasant thing, and they bring full force with them. And there's some people that now might identify with him easier than they have in the past because they identify with the way the justice system works, right? I do believe that is what could help him with this mugshot, to be honest.
For sure, the mainstream media and the Department of Justice going after him, it does make people now understand that you can't trust these entities. You can't trust the military industrial complex. You can't trust the deep state. You can't trust anything they say. I never trust the mainstream media. If they say anything, I'm always looking for the opposite. Elon, and just Alex, I'm going to come to you and ask you this question because obviously Donald Trump coming on Twitter is going to make Twitter huge. Already when it comes to Musk, Twitter is doing better and better and better. Like, let's be clear. I'm not like a Elon stan. Everybody knows that. When I disagree, I say it. At the same time, I have to be honest about things that are doing really well. And what is amazing on the site is it's so fun to be here. It's the most interesting social media platform. You got spaces where you can literally have a debate and banter or engagement with everybody. You got spaces about nearly every single issue. Just Mario himself, he's got finance spaces, he's got crypto spaces, he's got AI spaces, he's got gaming spaces, politics and news, sports. I think Linda just posted now, and I've just put my reply on there. But basically, on the next that NFL on X, just on the preseason, the level of tweets about it has increased by 12% since last year. And that is significant and 10% higher in terms of overall. And then I posted that we are already going to be starting our NFL spaces in a couple of weeks. We've already started our football spaces, and they are the biggest spaces. Like, people are interested, and Twitter is for everything and everyone. And then now you got Trump coming in to make it even more bigger. Like, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, and I kind of touched on this a little before, where some people are criticizing him for engaging with Trump's stuff, saying, "Oh, is he supporting Trump?" What Elon likes about Trump's return is that people are talking about it, both good or bad. They're engaging. That is what X is supposed to be for anyone who does or doesn't like him, but they want the conversation to happen here. And the same thing with sports or anything else that's going on in news, the world, or entertainment. Like, the conversation is happening here. What I did want to say, though, I'm not sure if you saw, so it's pinned in the Jumbotron 2 posts over. So there, I kind of want to touch on this because I know a previous space that we had about shadow bans. I know Chief was in there, Doc was in here, you were in there, Soulman. But so they're working on the transparency for shadow bans. And so this goes back to an old video too that I reposted a couple weeks ago, and Elon actually replied to that, and he said, one sec, I'm pulling it up. He said that it was taking longer than expected because of the way that it was, written into the code. Um, and I've explained this too in the past. It's the way that it is. It's not something that like you can go in and just like flip a switch and say shut off all the shadow bans. So the quote is, "Sorry, it's taking so long. There are so many layers of trust and safety software that it often takes us hours to find who, how, and why an account was suspended or shadow banned. A ground up rewrite is underway that simplifies the X code base dramatically." So that's the end goal. But so Andrea Conway has posted, excited about continuing to improve transparency on X mostly, so I never have to hear the word shadow ban ever again. That's kind of like a running joke for everyone who works at X, because regardless of what they do, they all hear about how everyone is shadow banned. But like that's the thing. People know it's an issue, but like the issue is fixing it. Because like I said, you can't just switch it and like it fixes it for everyone. And I'm no expert at coding or anything, but the way I've heard it described is that in the past, over the past like 15 years, or however long the company has been in existence, it's been lazy coding, because instead of deleting old code and editing it and keeping things concise, they just keep adding lines of code and lines of code. So this is years and years of code building up, so that it's hard to fix complex issues like this. And that's why the ground up rewrite is going to be eventually necessary. But even there's engineers in there that are just deleting like hundreds and hundreds and thousands of lines of code a day, and cleaning things up so that issues like that are easy to, number one, detect, and then number two, fix. I know that's kind of a tangent to, the whole Trump thing, but I just wanted to bring that up because I know we had talked about it in a previous space.
No, thanks for that. And I think that's an important issue. And Andrea is, her tweets amazing. I've read her. She does join our spaces regularly as well. And she's doing great work, because that is important. Like, as soon as you get transparency, that's the most important thing. And you're right. As long as they put the effort in to fix it, that's all we care about. Like, we understand that certain things are a bit complex. For me, there's two things: transparency and consistency. As long as we have that, then we've almost got the perfect platform. And I remember, whenever we make these complaints, we're still saying Twitter's the best, better than all the rest. It's not even close. It's just we want that extra thing. Like, we love it here. We spend so much time. Some of us are spending like 12, 16 hours on here. So the better it gets, the better it is for all of us.
Correct.
Yeah, and so 100% about that. But yeah, that's great news. I mean, we'll hopefully have a scenario where we'll know none of us are shadow banned. You'll know when your posts don't do well, you're just boring. But
well, that's another way, Solomon, that people are going to measure. If Trump does it routinely like he did in the past, they're going to compare how many tweets, likes, views he's getting compared to these other candidates. So you can have all the polls out there, you can have mainstream media saying out there, but if people are able to witness the actual numbers for themselves, people are going to measure that, and it's going to mean something.
Alpha, I'm sure somebody showed me some posts. I remember reading it. I think it was the Trump guys were posting it at one point. He was only getting like, I'm talking about DeSantis here. He was only getting like 60, 70 likes. Like, my worst posts get that level of likes. So, I mean, it's not even that you can't even compare DeSantis to Trump when it comes to social media. I would say even Vivek does a lot better. But that's what I think. But what do you think? That was based on what I read from a lot of the posts what happened. I've not been checking recently.
I agree completely with it. If you look at his past numbers, he's the comeback kid. And I don't think Trump's a bad guy. You guys know my stance on him. But shit, anybody that grew up in the 80s and watched Young Guns, when you turn Young Guns into the heroes, that's what you're doing to Trump here. And people are gonna love it. You see, we're all posting the stuff. Right now, Black America is on fire when it comes to social media. How do the other candidates do with that? They can't.
I think one thing to add on top of that as well, that's very important to note. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we're sort of digesting here. One thing I wanted to say is I have been actively pushing, and so is our team over the last couple of months, for Donald J. Trump to come into a Twitter space. So this is something that they've heard about, they've thought about, and I think it's I think it will happen. I don't know when, but there's a lot of positivity on their end for making something like that happen. The second thing, Trump's mugshot has over 200 million views right now. That's about probably all of Ron DeSantis's tweets combined. If that, I doubt he even breaks 200 million with all of his tweets combined. So there is definitely real interest in President Donald J. Trump. There's real interest for people to hear from him, for him to engage in the way that he once did. In a perfect world, I would say, yes, I want Trump on here every single day. And I hope that that's the case, especially when it comes to the debates, when it comes to, just those 5 a.m., sort of off the burner tweets while he's laying there. That's the stuff that really energized the people. It was something I looked forward to every day. And I miss that. I really do. And I think a lot of people do, because they were able to engage with him on levels that you've never seen from a president before. I mean, I remember the times he retweeted me. He did it plenty of times. And I have every single one of those tweets on my wall hung up that he retweeted it, or he quote tweeted it or something. It was sort of like a badge of honor. And so many people beyond just, the sort of influential class of people with millions of followers, it was happening to people who were just everyday Americans. Who just had a Twitter account, whether it be Magadad 101 or Jenny Craig, right? I mean, it was everybody, and that is what people like to see from Donald Trump, and I think that that's what they're going to bring back. Will it be right now? Will it be today, tomorrow? I don't know, but I know that he knows that he has to be here. I can tell you that based on conversations. I know he knows that, and if he were to monetize, he'd be making probably off that tweet alone $100,000+ in advertising, if not more. So I know that there's good reason to be here. There's good reason to fundraise. There's good reason to engage with the base. I think he's going to do it. I don't know if it's going to be right now, but I know it's coming. To go off of Alex's point, you're right. Twitter has, Twitter 1.0, when it came to the censorship and all that, we didn't see that in 2015, 2016. It was the Wild West, right? As time got closer to the end of Trump's term, you started to see more of these things pop up because they wanted to control the conversation. They didn't want you to see content from people like me, people like Alex, people like Jack Poso, right? After J6 happened, everything changed. It really did. Once they banned Trump, that was the test in the water for them. And they destroyed all of our accounts. I lost about 400,000 followers within a month. It just kept going down. I never gained any. Engagement was garbage. Everyone sort of felt that. And you knew that they turned on a switch or they flipped a switch. You knew they did something, because there was no logical way that you could have all of this following where, I was getting, 150 million impressions a month. It's starting to get back up to that number very slowly, but we were engaging on levels that you couldn't even explain. And so many others were in that same boat. And then all of a sudden, one day, it's gone. Click of a button, it's gone. And we knew it was censorship. We knew we were shadow banned. We knew that they were targeting us. And you go out and you talk about it. You go out and complain about it. And everybody's just like, you're a conspiracy theorist, which I know for a fact we're not. We're running out of conspiracies, right? They all come true. So there is definitely something that happened. I can tell you what, when it comes to coding, that's a very, very advanced thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were lazy. There's probably millions of lines of code in Twitter. There's probably so many different little back-end loopholes. I mean, I honestly thought that when Elon took over, developers backdoored the entire platform and were still able to do things. And I wouldn't have been surprised if they did. So that's sort of what we're working with. So I do agree with the notion. Elon is really working hard here to make this a platform for everyone, and a platform where if you do have 1.5 million followers, your 1.5 million followers equally have the chance to see what you put out. And that's how it should be. It shouldn't be blockaded by a wall of censorship, of this anti-transparency BS that Twitter put up before, where you go and you ask for help from their support team and you get this little guy from Pakistan who emails you back with something that was a cookie cutter message, right? That's not what you want. And that's not what I think he's trying to promote and build here. So I commend him for that. I do see progress. I really do. The content creator program's great. The spaces are great. Now you can have millions of people in spaces, which is why I think it'd be the perfect opportunity before the end of the year for Trump to get into one of these things and totally just break the internet again, in many more ways than one. But I'll leave it at that. I know that this is, something that needs to happen. I know that the people here are really wanting Donald Trump on here. I want him to, because you saw the mugshot. You saw the mugshot from last night. You saw how that broke the internet. No other presidential candidate in history gets to say that they have a mugshot. This is going to be marketed in many more ways than one. And, Chris, he left the space because I guess he's too much of a bitch. Excuse my language. But, he made a terrible point. He says that, the mugshot can't be comparable to MLK and all this stuff. Do you think that the people who saw MLK's mugshot when he first got his mugshot said that this would be viral and in history books? No, that's not how history plays itself, right? So I think that there's a lot here. And Trump is going to market this like the 4th of July on steroids. This is it. This really is it. He is going to be the nominee. And people just have to realize, and I'm glad he didn't participate in that debate, by the way. That was just a total cluster of garbage. They spent half the debate talking about him. He still lives rent-free in their heads. And no, Donald Trump is not scared of Ron DeSantis. To quote Chris, I just had a lot saved up after listening to this bullshit.
Hey, Ryan.
But anywho, I'll leave it at that.
Hey, Ryan.
Let me go to. Sorry, Doc. Let me just quickly go to Rena, and the reason for it is, and I know she's about to go. Rena, I believe you are a DeSantis supporter. What's your thoughts about Trump, his post, the level of engagement it had, the level of impact it's had on social media, and how do you think this is going to parallel into possibly him becoming the GOP nominee? Rena?
Yeah, hey guys, what's up? Sorry, I'm just preparing to go on CNN, some of your all's favorite network. I didn't hear the question. What's the question?
The question was, I believe that you're a DeSantis supporter, so just correct me if I'm wrong. And what's your thoughts about Donald Trump returning to Twitter, the level of engagement he got, and how do you think this is going to parallel into him becoming the GOP nominee?
Yeah, early on, I was definitely excited about Ron DeSantis. I remember him from my time on Capitol Hill as a young aide, and I'd always heard stories from his staff that he's not very charismatic, and it wasn't that he was unlikable, that he just wasn't really that much fun. And it was Casey, his wife, who was a little bit more exciting. And so I kind of put that stuff in the back of my mind, because unless you experience it firsthand, a lot of it is just sort of like, well, he's just not for everyone. But when I saw him sort of get all the accolades he got, and a lot of the support for what he did in Florida around COVID and whatnot, it's hard to look away. And I think a lot of us coming out of the post-pandemic world were sort of like, how are Republicans ever going to win again? And so when I started to talk to Mid-Atlantic Republicans in particular, and I'm talking about, of course, the New York finance set, they were really excited about DeSantis, and they were ready to put their money where their mouths were and that kind of thing. But look, I think the campaign, I don't want to say is imploded, but it has suffered from something really huge, which was a couple factions within it. There's a woman, Janera Peck, that I did work with in some grassroots efforts years ago. We came up with a group called Next Gen GOP, and this was like 10 plus years ago, you guys. So a lot of us moderate types, but then we all know the types like Christina Pushaw that have been here on X, formerly Twitter, right? When she was super active, just annoying everybody, pushing back at everybody. And yeah, she was a MAGA type. So to me, that is what the campaign suffers from. Ron's inability to sort of jump out and quell whatever rebellions were happening within. I think he left everything up to Jeff Rowe, his top strategist, who, lots been said about Jeff being a really incredible force for campaigns, but campaigns are being done completely different, you guys. And I'm a former operative. I'm not going to act like I know how to run a political campaign anymore. It has changed so much after Trump won in 2016, and even now. I mean, look at how Ramaswamy is coming up. a lot of it is unique digital efforts. And so, I really love this platform. I think X is great. I disagree with people who were speaking in the space, I think over an hour ago when I was first in, talking about how they think, even though they don't like Trump, they think he should be here. I think the minute anybody incites violence and gets a crowd to basically get extreme riled up and go out there and want to shoot and kill people, I think you deserve to be deplatformed. And I mean, I've had a lot of thoughts about Trump over the years. But I think he's back because he's scared. I think he's a weak man underneath it all. I think as he gets older, he's really not even thinking about legacy like a lot of politicians do. And let's get it straight, right? Like Trump's never going to be like the people we saw on stage in Milwaukee this past week, save for Vivek Ramaswamy. He's not ever going to be in the same universe, even talking points wise, as Chris Christie, Mike Pence, and all that. And I think what we saw was like Chris Christie fall flat on his face. Like, I mean, everybody expected this intellectual bully to show up in Milwaukee. He couldn't land a single punch. Now, Nikki Haley really surprised me. I think one thing she really showed, and I'm not a huge fan of hers anymore. I haven't been in recent years. She's somebody I really liked like 10 plus years ago, if you asked me, and it has nothing to do with me having been a Republican woman or of Indian descent. Like I think she did a phenomenal job in South Carolina. And then I think there were a number of years in which she couldn't really be herself. And I think she was not authentic. And what she did from the stage in Milwaukee this past week was showed that she understood the assignment. And the assignment is to get Biden and Kamala Harris out of the White House. And how are Republicans going to do that if they don't know how to win a general, if they don't have their eyes already on the general election? Then they're showing a failure to meet the moment. They're showing a failure to not play the long game. They're showing a failure to lead already. And so Nikki Haley, whatever anybody wants to say about her, she killed it on Bidenomics, on abortion, on Putin. Those three areas, she landed every single punch. She fought back. She did it in a beautiful way. She was calm, cool, collected. She made the others sound like amateurs. And I think she bitch slapped Vivek Ramaswamy, who frankly I find insufferable and needs to be bitch slapped. He's like a little prick that I can't stand. That's just me being a total jerk right now, because I think he reminds me of every other entitled Indian American kid I've come across in my life. Kid of immigrants wants to talk about how he grew up poor. Hi, everybody did over here. Our parents were Indians. They were conservative. They don't want to spend anything. I mean, I once asked for a shirt from the Gap. My mother laughed me out of the room. Anyways, point is, don't believe his shit. He's ridiculous. I mean, he'll say anything to get curry favor among anyone. And I think that's what's interesting right now, right? Like people are like, wow, what he's saying is so refreshing, so cool, so different. And this is good for the Republican Party to have some of this talk. But to say that climate change policies are a hoax is so absolutely divorced from reality and just shows that you're unserious, especially if he's an elder millennial. Come on, bro, what are you doing? Like, just stop trying to appeal to everyone. Stop trying to be Trump 2.0. Be yourself, and who you are is like not enough. So, I mean, just expect him to keep doing this shtick until he's blue in the face. But let's start to pay attention to how the party moves forward and wins. Because my thing is this, I've got little kids. I mean, I am so afraid of this country not being the greatest country anymore. I can't tell you. It makes me sick. Like I stay up at night being like, what in the world are we going to do in the next 10 years? Are my husband and I going to have to work forever? So like, I'm not thinking about Trump much anymore, you guys. Like I'm thinking he's in a world of trouble. Republican women I talk to are ready to be done with him because they're like, he is just got too much baggage. Like, let's find the next person. So I don't think it's DeSantis anymore. I'm not even sure it's Nikki Haley, even though I just gave her a glowing review from this past week, but it's certainly not Tim Scott. It's certainly not Pence. I don't think it's Christie anymore. And forget Burgum and Asa Hutchinson. They aren't even registering on the Richter scale. So let's see what happens. But I think Trump's scared. I think that's why he's back on this platform. When he's scared, he wants attention, and he's going to get a lot of attention here, and he's also going to get a lot of money here. So let's see what's up.
I got a question for Raina, if you allow me.
Go ahead with that. Yeah,
Wait,
I was gonna get Doc to respond because I know it'd be seasoned. But go ahead, Alpha.
Yeah, just a quick question. I want to get Raina's thoughts on this. This is a tweet from Trump, and it's from January 6th at 1:38 p.m. Eastern Time. Please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They are truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful. What part of that is violent? And you did say that he was enticing people to take guns. Can you tell me what tweet or what statement he made that made people want to take guns to the Capitol?
So I think he incited violence by his words at the Ellipse when he spoke to the crowd that gathered there in front of the White House.
What
He
words
was like,
though?
so I'd have to, really go back and say which were the exact words that would incite violence. But there's evidence which in those January 6th select committee hearings of people talking about how he didn't want there to be magnometers there. And he was told that a lot of the crowd had guns and he was like, take the mags away. So like, I don't have that transcript in front of me to say the exact words, but
Well, if he made those statements,
to me,
and I would like to see transcripts of that too, but he would have made those.
Yeah,
but he would have made those statements not to the crowd. He would have made those statements to his people. You're saying that he made statements
yeah, but
to
his
the
people
crowd.
were the crowd.
Well, no, he never told the crowd, I don't want magtrometers here. It's just we're getting people, especially like you're going to go on CNN with a huge platform and a huge voice that say Trump made these statements. The January 6th committee
No,
has
dude,
these
I'm
statements.
not doing that tonight.
Well,
No, I'm not
tonight,
talking about
but I'm
Trump
just saying
tonight. I'm not going to
what
say
I'm
that
saying
either.
is
This
you're
is just
saying it
me.
here with 12,
Yeah.
12,000 people or so listening, and
Yeah,
but you don't have the statement. And I do know that.
But I'm not
I do
gonna
know
look.
this.
I don't come with receipts
Well, then
everywhere, man.
don't make
Like,
the statements then, because those are very
but you
damaging.
did.
But
Look at the
if you
transcript.
I have, and when you look at, they make a statement and they follow it with ... and then people go and actually research the statement and find out that following that ... is the stay peaceful part, then it changes the whole context of that statement. And people that go on mainstream media, whether they're an anchor or whether there's someone that's giving their statement, we have to be responsible and give the full context of things, even if it's DeSantis
I
or
get
even
it.
if it's Biden. When we do snippets, that's dishonesty, and the American people have
Man,
been
I
fed so
completely
much
agree.
dishonesty that they're tired of it.
This has a lot of nuance, and I get it. I hear your frustration. I'm also frustrated with it, and that's why I would not talk about this in a 5 to 8 minute interview where if I did not take a transcript. What I'm saying, and I hear you on what you're saying, is like, did he tell the crowd, take your gun and go to the Capitol? No, he did not say those exact words. I bring up the mags because there was evidence that he was fine with the crowd having guns. What he said to the crowd that day, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, go up there, go to the Capitol, and I'm with you. He basically, again, I'm paraphrasing. I don't have the transcript in front of me. I did not expect to bring this up, but he told the crowd, he gave the crowd the impression with his words that they ought to go to the Capitol. That's why they continued down Constitution. That's why it was closed by the National Park Police. There were permits taken out. There was an understanding that they were going to move, because I actually was trying to go down Constitution with my car around a couple hours before he was at the Ellipse, and it was closed. So he knew the crowd was going to go from the White House Ellipse down Constitution and straight to the west front of the Capitol. And he said, I will be with you. And he was not. There was a testimony in front of the January 6th Select Committee that he said he did want to get in a car and go, but they didn't have the correct Secret Service set up. And so they denied him. And he was obviously very angry about that.
Well, then,
but that was
my
his
last
plan. So
question, because I know Doc had
yeah.
something lined up for you, Rana. You said that there's a concern because there was a lot of people there with guns and he didn't want to have the magnetometers. Are there any people that have been arrested, or are there any suspects that are outstanding for shooting any Capitol Police or shooting anybody from the Capitol?
That I do not know, and I can't comment on because I just don't know.
I'll let the
with
audience
his words,
listening. As of right now, there are no January 6th suspects that are wanted, are on trial, or have been convicted of shooting anybody from the Capitol at all. There's only one person that was shot. It was Ashley Babbitt. So if we're going to stipulate that an entire crowd had guns, then it shows great restraint, given what we saw, the climate at January 6th, that all these people with guns never shot anybody.
Nobody's saying they all had guns. I'm just saying he wanted them to go get violent. He wanted them to go cause a riot, which they did.
Events at the Capitol, events at the west side of the Capitol that were, they transpired prior to the culmination of the rally. You're talking about the words at the Ellipse inspired the crowd. The crowd was still at the Ellipse when stuff started to go down at the Capitol.
No,
So
a lot of people had made their way there, and I physically saw it, and I have videos on my Instagram highlights. I have an Instagram story highlight, by the way, you guys. That is my receipts. I was there on the roof of 101 Constitution Ave, a private building. I was in a tent with Al Jazeera Arabic. I was an expert guest that day. I was next to Alex Jones's tent. It was wild. There were still people,
and I was on the west side of the Capitol. So I mean, I think maybe my viewpoint might stand for a little bit more than yours.
Wait.
I had a bird's eye view of it all. Look at my video. You could see people gathering on the west front of the Capitol. I used to be a U.S. Capitol staffer on the House side. I mean, I'm intimately familiar. When they made their way up the bleachers and through the cleavage between the Senate and the main building of the Capitol, the U.S. Capitol Police were overwhelmed, and that to me signaled this is
because
a full-on riot.
the captain of the Capitol Police was refused the ability to bring in the reinforcements that he wanted. That's why they were overwhelmed, because they didn't have enough people there. They were overwhelmed because they opened up gates and doors to let people in. And then they threw gas into the crowd, provoking them. They had agents planted, provocateurs, that precipitated the violence. You are really missing the boat here, lady. I don't know who you are. I'm sorry to interrupt. I've been sitting here for a while listening to this
Okay,
nonsense.
look, this
We're not
isn't
going to
to
resolve this
litigate
question
January 6th,
on-
dude.
What's going on?
This is literally about the former president's words.
No, it's not. It's about Trump's return to X. And my question was about whether or not it was the opinion of the room, if anyone had an opinion, that Trump would be allowed to monetize his massive presence, given what I saw today from a coding expert looking into the X code that said Trump, the word Trump, is one of those words that's disfavored by the company that Twitter and X have retained to help advertisers select appropriate content. That's what this space is about. Okay, not what you saw.
Well, then
3
forgive
years
me
ago.
for engaging somebody who tried to engage me on what I said about January 6th. So
Yeah,
check
it's
yourself before you wreck yourself, chiropractor.
When the issue has been,
You sound like a real expert.
I am a real expert. That's why I'm up on the panel anytime that I
Yeah,
would like
about
to be up on the
chiropractic
panel.
medicine. So talk to some
No,
of us
I'm
that have
also an
actually worked
attorney,
within the
lady.
body of Congress.
I'm also an
Don't call me
attorney,
lady.
lady.
I'm Miss
I
Rena
know you're
Shaw
not
to
a
you.
lady, but you're certainly not acting like one.
Oh,
You're
and
a
you
nasty
definitely aren't a
woman.
doctor.
A nasty woman. Yes, I am.
Thanks for
And
calling
that's
me a nasty woman.
defamation.
I'm definitely not a liberal, but I'll tell you
Well,
what,
no,
some of you
go
sound
right into
really
class
envious
about
of the
women on
fact that some
CNN.
of us.
That's it.
Oh, see, you hear CNN and you got triggered. You hear CNN and you got
No,
triggered.
I watched
Snowflake.
Trump on CNN destroy someone who makes you look simple and pathetic by comparison. I forget
All
what
right,
that lady's
bro.
name is,
Listen,
bro.
enough
I'm
with
not your
your
bro, lady.
enough with your low blows. I'm here to talk about the body of Congress and my expertise in it. And if that's what you want to talk about,
Your
I'm
body
here.
of Congress.
But otherwise, peace
From an
out.
Al Jazeera tent.
Al
Really?
Jazeera is a
You're
respected outlet.
Are
You
you a
need to check
registered FARA agent?
yourself.
Are you a registered
I am
agent?
not a registered foreign agent because I'm
Why
invited
not?
as an
Why
expert
not? You
guest
can be
because I do
arrested
not
and
lobby for
prosecuted for something
anybody.
like that.
You
If
seem
you
to
hear the
have
call
zero
metaphor,
understanding of how the world works.
yeah, I have
Stick to
zero
chiropractic
understanding.
medicine.
Really understand it. Yeah, I have all of my patients never took the vaccine, Kitty.
You have patients
right?
or clients? I'm sorry.
No, both. I have both. I have 2 doctoral degrees. I
You
have
are
patients
so triggered
associated
by
with one.
CNN, bro. You're so triggered. It's
I'm not.
hilarious.
I watch Trump on CNN. It's
Because
the
he's
only
your
reason I
cult leader,
mentioned it.
bro. He's your cult
No, he's
leader.
a gang leader now, lady.
Go to
He's
King
the
Jong.
MAGA gang.
King Jong.
So
I love this. You are so triggered. This is hilarious.
You
Yeah,
know
I'm
what
having a lot
CNN
of
was
fun
triggered
too.
about by yesterday? CNN was triggered yesterday about people changing their profile pictures to mock-ups of the
Dude, I
booking
don't work
photo.
for CNN. I just go on there and talk for
She
myself.
works
I'm
for
from
Al
West
Jazeera. She
Virginia.
gets her money
I
from all
don't
over
work
the
for
globe.
Al Jazeera, you
You
fool.
were
I
in an
just
Al
go on as a
Jazeera tent. We
guest.
all just heard it. It's a recorded
Yeah, I
statement.
was an expert
Yeah,
guest
yeah.
that
Did
day,
you
you
get paid
fool.
to be there? Or
Yeah,
was it
I
like
did.
a
And
friend that you
I
had?
did. And I
So you
love
were
it.
paid
And
by
just
Al Jazeera.
All
and
right,
just
guys,
like you get
guys,
paid for
this is 1 second. Apologies. Look, this is dragging. It's not about Peaceful's personal, background or personal attacks. Let's keep it to the discussion at hand. That'd be much appreciated. Let me go to Chief. I know Chief had some pushback on what Rena said. Please go ahead, Chief.
Yeah.
And then I'll give. Oh, Rena's got. I was going to give her a chance to jump in after that, but go ahead.
Yeah, because what happened was Rena did a little drive-by shot, kind of made a lot of statements that she did not have receipts for, to be fair. If you're going to make your statement, you should be having receipts, especially on a Twitter space with thousands of people listening to it. And the whole point about her believing and citing, it was just, again, a very big reach from hearing it. And, it just was complete fabrication on that front. But going back to the actual issue with Twitter and all that, because Alex brought it up, actually, being creator on Twitter is going to blow up, especially with the election. And Trump being back on Twitter is great, not just for him and his message, but for all the people who are trying to be in politics, people like you and I, people who are just trying to learn more about the world and hear things from people and perspectives. It gives people a lot of opportunity to hear from Trump, and even if people don't agree with Trump all the time. I really think that Trump being back on Twitter is going to change how politics goes in the future. Trump is really huge, not just because of what he says, but because of how he approaches the media. He's very media savvy. Vivek is as well. I don't agree with Vivek on everything really, but he is learning how to take social media by storm and taking the thunder away from DeSantis, actually. I think that people are out of touch when they try to claim or cling to old ways of campaigning. There's a new generation of people. There's a new way of campaigning, I think, with social media, and people should be taking advantage of that. Trump being on Twitter has a huge reach. Hundreds of millions of people have seen his tweet already. And when he's going to be back campaigning, we'll be talking to voters, town halls, all that, all of his ads, his campaign messages will all be on Twitter or on X. And it's been really great to see. And I hope other people out there who are conservative will take that message too and try using Twitter to the best of their ability, because Twitter is a huge platform. And without us using it, we're giving that to the left. So we should be using it to the best of our ability. We should be spreading it. I'm very happy that Trump's back on here. And you know,
very good points, Chief. No, I totally agree with you. And sorry, I wish Irina would stay on because I did want to make a couple of comments to her, but I know Doc had a few points he wanted to make, and so did Alpha. But I think her argument about Nikki Haley, if anything, from that debate, Nikki Haley dropped significantly in my eyes. I didn't rate her much before anyway, but how and the reasoning for it is you know, some of the feminist points she was making, some of the warmongering points she was making. I know when I saw that debate, other than Vivek, the Republican Party seemed like the Republican Party from like 15 years ago or whatever, where it was all about warmongering pre-Trump. And so that concerns me significantly. And so again, as someone from the United Kingdom, that is one aspect that actually we do care about US politics, because if there's foreign war, it affects all of us. Because let's be clear, US go to war, UK is following behind with you guys. And so that's why it's important. And what I liked about Trump was that he essentially had made the Republican Party almost like the classical liberals. But I guess we're seeing a future of what the Republican Party is going to be without Trump. Confluence, I'd like to hear your last thoughts before we do wrap up. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there was a little taste of honesty from Rena when she saw that the DeSantis ship was sinking. And that's what I wish we could all kind of have a bit more of. Looking at the opposition just because I'm a DeSantis guy or I'm a whatever guy, and I'm not, by the way, but to concede, right? That is indeed a sinking ship. For people to come on and shill like that was a great performance, or like there's any chance, is all silly. Even if you aren't on Trump's side, you have to see what a cultural monolith and enigma he is. This is like mega across culture, politics, global affairs, and now the infamy of not what's being presented by this shown to be fake during COVID media, but the infamy of how bad this sort of dwindle of doom is, with every asset being deployed, the timing of all of the indictments. It's all just so superficial. And even now, people on the left are getting the heebie-jeebies. It's making their skin crawl, even if subtly, and they may not be ready to express it yet, but it's just kind of gross for our country. And yeah, honestly, you can't help but feel in recent times that this is in the chess match when you kind of go into endgame, when you realize the game is made and you just are playing out the moves. And I think that Trump is on the upper hand here. And I think by all objective accounts, you have to see that every move, every goal to kind of slow down his growth and power with the populace, and even with global, even now with minorities pouring into the streets to celebrate him as he drives by. This is like a cultural moment that, to see it as anything else, is missing the gist. And yeah, you can't help but see how every move just powers him up greater, and that the left really, though throwing everything at him, has nothing left. So I think we're witnessing very interesting times here, and to see it as anything but is to miss the greater point.
I mean, I was going to wrap up, but as soon as you said that DeSantis is failing or flailing, Justin's hand went right up. He wanted to jump in. He couldn't allow.
Oh, please, Justin. Shill me.
Oh,
Shill me.
good.
Tell me what
good
the payroll
evening,
has
folks.
to say tonight.
Oh, come on. It's so funny. You know, these guys can't handle the actual receipts that I bring, and so they accuse me of being paid by the DeSantis campaign.
What about
which
the
is a lie.
receipts that you were paid?
Even if you were, Justin, so what?
Yeah, but my own PAC, that paid me to fight COVID policies on Capitol Hill. Thank you very much. All right, guys, look, it is a very significant moment. That is Trump coming back on Twitter. I don't think he's going to do a lot, at least initially here. I think he's going to wait for some common bursts. You should know that there are a couple other people that post for Trump there. He's not the only one who posts for himself. But it'll be interesting to see what transpires there. The mugshot is significant. I think it plays well to his base. I don't know it plays well to independents. I know it doesn't play well to independent women. And you guys have to understand, Twitter is not real life. When you look at, for example, the 538 poll and 2 other polls that came out showing that DeSantis improved his average by about 5 to 7 points.
I'm sorry, I'm going to let you carry on, but I'm forced to jump in there. So are you saying when DeSantis announced his presidential campaign, it wasn't in reality? Anyway, continue.
No, it's fine to do it on Twitter. I'm just saying, when you talk about moving the needle, look what happened in 2 hours on this presidential campaign when you realize that the vast majority of people have no idea about the fights that we have. They have no idea who Doc is. They have no idea who I am, right? And we have these internecine fights on Twitter, and they mean nothing.
Bro, Doc is the top G, bro. Everyone knows.
I love Doc. Doc and I love each other too, so it's not a big deal. But what I'm saying in the end is, Twitter is not real life. You look at what happened in 2 hours. Trump lost 2 points in the averages. DeSantis gained 5 to 7. And so those little
2
moments,
points
you take
is a
advantage when
rounding
people
error.
are
5 to 7 is by choosing a poll of your choice. You're talking points, no matter
That's
how
just
often
fine.
you
Look,
repeat them and how many
in the end,
metrics you get per repeat. It's meaningless.
If Twitter's not real life and social media is not real life, why did they remove Trump and censor everybody that was trying to put information out there if it doesn't really
It's
make
a town
sense?
square.
Hey, they censored me too. I got lawsuits going on because of it. So,
but why would
believe
they
me,
do that if this
the
is
fight is
but
important?
If what you're saying is
Why would
true,
you follow?
and
Why would you follow
Twitter doesn't
lawsuits
make
about
a
something that's not
difference,
real
and
life?
Twitter's not real life, then why would it make a difference for them to try to suppress people's information or people's
I
speech?
did not say it doesn't make a difference. It does, but it is not real life in that when you compare the populations of this country with the people that are on Twitter, it does not match up. You go out,
But it's
just
the
think
same.
to
It's
yourself.
the same
Let
theory
me
as
ask this
polls.
question.
You don't poll 100 million people. You poll these different geographical areas, and based off of the way they respond, it gives you an idea what's going on. That's what Twitter is.
Just ask
Twitter
yourself,
is just a 24/7
ask
live
yourself,
poll.
how many of your friends, how many of your family, how many of your coworkers are on Twitter? I'm going to guess a very small percentage. You guys are the exception. Don't mistake what happens
It's
here
still
for what happens
statistically
in real life.
relevant sample. You can do the regression and see that it is.
But also,
So which is it?
Justin,
Polls aren't important, or they are important then?
Justin, you have to admit this though too, and I will concede your point that the percentage of Americans that are on Twitter is relatively low compared to other social networks. But don't forget that every person who is connected on Twitter also has a physical node of friendships in the real world, at work, their family. And so Twitter plays a valuable and integral part in getting information to those people who then disseminate it just in the course of their normal everyday activities. Not
It's a political
necessarily
nexus
online.
of the country. It's a political nexus of the country. Go ahead.
So not necessarily online. So to just say that there's, to just go by the percentage of people on America who are on Twitter as some sort of metric of its relevancy just ignores the fact that the people who use Twitter for political information take that information and go forth into the world with it and impact the public that way.
Right, guys, I do appreciate you coming onto the Twitter space. It is awesome to have Donald Trump back onto Twitter. You've seen the engagement, 200 million views, 1.6 million likes, I believe. No matter what you say, you might like him, you might dislike him, but he creates conversation. He creates interest. I mean, a lot of people on Twitter, they've created their whole social media life based on Trump.
So can I say one thing I don't like about one thing I can say about Trump coming back on Twitter I don't like is that the Krassensteins are going to make a boatload of more money. So I'm not happy about that.
Well, that's what I meant. I mean, Krassensteins made their Twitter career. I'm told, because I wasn't on here at that time, but I'm told that they made their career based on replying to Trump.
So dollar bills for Crafton scenes. Everybody's winning. Liberals are even winning, and Sarah's going to be smashing the door as well. It's all good. Everybody's eating bread.
Maybe
But
not.
anyway,
Maybe not.
yeah, we've got big Twitter spaces because of it. Like yesterday's space was hype. Today's space is hype. We're all eating, bro. Trump's feeding us all.
A rising tide lifts all ships, Uli.
Exactly, bro. Exactly. For real. So anyway, we do appreciate you coming on. Tomorrow, we do have the football space, which is going to be at 7:30 p.m. UK, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. I did put it on the nest. Our NFL show is going to be starting in about 10 days, I believe. That is going to be hype. So yeah, Twitter is
Wait,
the
you're
place.
not hosting that, are you, Sully?
I am.
What do you know? Did you know football?
Of course I do. I've been to a number of New Orleans Saints games. Ask Joe. He tried to test me. I smashed it. Joe, tell these nerds.
Yeah, he does.
Exactly.
He does surprisingly know football. He knows more about football than he does about politics. So
This is
it's a
fake
good
news
show.
now. I know
That's
a
so
huge
funny,
amount
didn't
about
it?
politics, right? So anyway, for reals, join it. It's gonna be. Oh no, sorry. And then tomorrow's space, same time again. Tomorrow's space will be 6 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. UK. But I don't need to say UK time for that one, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. It has been fun. The main man is back. Trump is back on Twitter. It's gonna be amazing.
One tweet and he's back.
That's how good he is.
Chilling for bills.